Hello, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thanks for inviting me for that meeting, that important meeting regarding how we can use sovereign wealth funds in the sense of allow sustainable development. Uh, Let me just introduce myself. My name is Fernando Teixeira. I am the researcher at the Brazilian Forum of Sovereign Wealth Funds in UF, the Universidade Federal Fluminense in Brazil. Uh, and I prepare some slides to uh, make some discussions that I think it's important on how those sovereign wealth funds can make part of institutional framework for finance long-term projects regarding sustainable development. Okay, first of all, how to create functional financial arrangements. Some stylized facts that I think it's important to put on the table. Uh, an appropriated financial arrangement is fundamental to allow any model or process of development. And when we are talking about environmental issues, it's even more important. I mean, we have to have the state or planning behind all those arrangements. It's not just innovation and market strategies to allocate portfolios. So I mean, it's quite difficult to get those kind of arrangements in when we are talking about environmental issues. So it has to combine the advance of research. So of course, have to direct credit to the sectors you think are important to develop, and so we have to permit to allow the skills and interest of the state, which means the population behind the states, and the innovative capacity of financial market. I mean, you have to combine all those skills. And what I am calling a functional institutionality means able to offer that credit in terms and conditions suitable for project cash flows. So, I mean, they have to have special conditions uh, which are completely different between the different sectors. Uh, but not always there is that functional institutionality in every country or in every region. So I mean, I think it's important to have this goal uh, if you want to allow any arrangement regarding those that new issues regarding environmental issues on the development. What's the justification to direct credit and so can induce financial other agents, productive or financial agents to those projects? Because if you can do that, you can effectively contribute to organize or articulate a national or even a regional sustainable development agenda. What I mean that you can, of course, say what has to be financed. Otherwise, if you think by the part of the market, they would obviously goes into the main profitable projects and etc. So I mean, you have to induce them in that sense. And why now? Why you have to have the state behind this that anchoring of expectations? Let's say like that, because when sovereign wealth fund, for example, just hire external management to manage the portfolio of those funds, it's quite normal that they would concentrate that financial institutions, private financial institutions, concentrate credit to regions with higher degree of economic development, lower uncertainties, and even more information available. That's the way financial markets operate. So, I mean, that's the reason why you have to have that arrangement or that framework with a strong participation of the state. And uh, to justify that kind of arrangement nowadays, it's important to say that many sovereign wealth funds around the world after 2016, 17, are being acting in that direction. I mean, they are associate that their goals, that their objectives, to sustainable development goals. So I mean, it's not a if, for example, the Chilean experience or the Colombian or even the Brazilian decides to carry on that sense. It's not something that, I mean, completely new. It's already being done around the world in other parts. So I mean, there is such a legitimacy to decide to go in that sense. And what skills and expertise must be built? Uh, you have to say that sovereign wealth funds are institutional investors. I mean, that's the nature of those funds. You cannot do everything you want with that fund, so it has limited capacity to impact public policies. But yes, there are some options that we can think about, and that's the discussion I'm trying to do with the Brazilian sovereign wealth funds. They are subnational ones, so of course there are some difference, but I'm trying to do that discussion because I think it's important. So we have by the skills creates subsidies or other mechanisms to induce the market. I have said it before, and one way to do it is like an allocation of portfolio as a funding for public financial agents. It can be done together with development banks. For example, in Brazil, it's been done in the state of Espírito Santo with the regional development bank. So the regional development bank manage a part of the sovereign wealth fund portfolio and can create uh, lines of credit to what they think are important, not usually or always regarding environmental issues or sustainable development, but I mean could be like that and can be like that. I think some of the lines are going to that sense. So those financial public financial agencies could make the managed of a portion, just a part of the sovereign wealth fund portfolio, which means, for example, let me say a number. If 30% of the portfolio go to be managed as a funding to those agents for development banks, for example, the other 70% could be invested to look into risks and returns, and so the whole portfolio can have higher returns than if it was 100% to funding public agencies. So I mean, it's a strategy of allocation of portfolio. Um, so it's important to say just a part of the sovereign wealth fund would be in that sense, because otherwise, for sure, would have some contestation on all the stakeholders involved, and even the market, this financial markets, or even the population, or someone who thinks that that sovereign wealth fund should target just high returns. And so, I mean, just a part of that would be allocated in as a funding, and that part would be remunerated, of course, at lower interest rates compared to market ones, which means you have to have the possibility to give some subsidies to, of course, induce the market. And so, I mean, you have to direct credit, and to direct credit, you need to give some subsidies. So, of course, the state or the public agency would remunerate the sovereign fund at lower interest rates. But yes, it's remunerated. It's not a donation. It's a portfolio allocation, as I said. And if it's a national fund, of course, there is a close relation with monetary policy and also the structure, the financial system structure and the domestic arena. So I mean, there are varies a lot. It's not there is no how can I say it? There's no a magic solution, but yeah, you have to put things on the table and decide what's the best way to do it and what are the interest rates you can use to remunerate. So I mean, yeah, each case is each case. It's important to say. Um, and the main challenge, in my opinion, is to develop financial and technical capacity to carry out diagnosis and define priorities. So, in other words, planning. You have to have capacity to plan when you are thinking about long-term investments, and if you are thinking about how the climate change right now. I mean, you have to plan. There is no other way to maximize the returns, and that's the best solution. I mean, it's not the case anymore. If it was somewhere, I don't know. To leverage legitimacy, planning, and execution, uh, I think it's important that all that design, that institutional framework that I am proposing, uh, should be in dialogue with existing guidelines, so previous guidelines elaborated by ministerial plans or even public agendas. So it has to has a social participation. It's a way that you have previous legitimacy to design this kind of framework. Otherwise, I mean, I know better the Brazilian case would be surely public contestation or the stakeholders regarding the, the atmosphere, the environment where sovereign wealth funds lives, and the thing would stop in the beginning. So, yeah, when you have previous social participation and the elaboration of plans and etc., you have some legitimacy already. So it's good to say that. It's important to say that, and I think it's now we have some possibilities to do that with progressive governments in Chile and Colombia and in Brazil. Uh, Going to the end, among the advantages of using sovereign wealth funds to finance green projects is as sovereign wealth funds is a way of manage the finite revenues in a different way in each country, but it's the way to manage that revenues outside the fiscal framework. It would not affect the fiscal structure in the short term. So I mean, it's important. Every country has fiscal problems, and the discussion is huge. And if we enter in that arena, probably we would lose the debate. So first of all, in the short term, there's no negatively affect to the fiscal part of the country or even the region, if it's the case, like in Brazil. And depending on what is financed, what we decide to finance, green projects and etc., there is a high potential to increase revenues in the near future. What I mean, for example, if you decide to finance a green infrastructure, sanitation, roads, or railways, or whatever you would like to think in terms of infrastructure, uh, it's a need for the population, local population, and it's a service that would be have some tax on that. So those revenues would come in the long term to the state again. I mean, if you have a high level of GDP or something like that, it means more revenue to the future to finance the state to keep doing public policy. So there are those two main advantages in using sovereign wealth fund to try to leverage those green projects. And at the end, to reflect, I think that building the foundations for economic, social, and environmental development is the most important legacy for future generations. What I mean, all those sovereign wealth funds has as the biggest objective uh, generate some intertemporal benefits to local population, because it's usually from finite revenues, so extractivisms and another kind of explore the land or the sea, whatever. uh, and And so that's the biggest goal to that fund. But how you can really create a legacy for future generations? Just looking for risks and returns, I don't think, in my opinion, Fernando, that's the best option. But if you can direct some investments to social, economic, and environment development, yes, you can allow the future generations to have access to best life and etc. So I finish here. Thank you very much for the invitation, and we can discuss it on the 18th. Thank you very much.